at the NFL draft. As we just heard it, Mendoza goes number 1 overall. Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. And we knew that. But small CC after that, it was anyone's guess, and it was a wild night at the NFL draft last night.
Yeah, it's a wild night. We had 8 draft day trades, which is the third most in the history of the draft in the first round. So it was absolutely incredible to see all the movement by teams. A lot happened in the back half of the first round. I think 5 of the final 7 selections were traded picks. So it was absolute chaos. But amidst that, you had the overwhelming emotion from the players. Mm-hmm. And I thought that we all identified the moment of the draft last night when Jordan Tyson gets drafted to the New Orleans Saints. Mm-hmm. And on his way out to the stage to hug the commissioner, he takes a knee and he starts crying and he wells up. You see the tears in his eyes. I don't know how you could see that moment and not instantly become a Jordan Tyson fan and root for that kid to have wild success down in New Orleans.
Absolutely. You could see how much it meant to him watching his dream realized last night. And that's one of those things that you take away from the NFL draft. We don't know how these players are going to translate at the NFL level. We don't know what the next chapter of their career is going to be, but we know that there was a dream realized for them and their families last night. And it never ceases to amaze me being there and watching them walk across that stage to hug the commissioner, how special that is. It's really cool that we get to be there and witness it last night. And we kept saying, guys, that with a draft that was very top heavy and a lot of parity in those middle first round picks, we didn't know if there was going to be any excitement, and there was a lot of movement last night, some surprises, a good draft overall.
Yeah, I would say that number 2, we knew with the Jets was going to be one of 2 guys, David Bailey or Arvell Reese, edge rushers, Texas Tech and Ohio State respectively. The Jets do go with Bailey, so I don't think anybody was shocked by that, even though Reese came in somewhat as a favorite by way of DraftKings. We all said the draft started at 3, so let's go there. The Arizona Cardinals, could they trade the pick? Oh, wow. It seems like running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiyah Love, was going to be slotted there. But who was he going to be slotted to? As the draft ends, CC, Jeremiyah Love, Arizona Cardinals, no trade, straight up. He's their pick, and he's their pick without Ty Simpson, who we'll get to, because we know that was a huge story last night. What was your thought process, and did you like that pick, Jeremiyah Love to Arizona?
I like it for Arizona. I hate it for Jeremiyah Love. He's going to be running into a brick wall. The offensive line still needs some work. The defense is a work in progress, and they don't know who their quarterback is going to be for the future or for the here and now. So I think that it's going to be a slog for Jeremiyah Love in order to get things turned around in Arizona. Now, character-wise, it's exactly what you want. I think he's a program builder. I understand why Mike LaFleur went that direction, first-time head coach, wanting to put his stamp on what his program is going to be overall. If you give your seal of approval on the direction of the team by drafting Jeremiyah Love, it's a good start, but they just need so much, and it feels like running back is more of a finishing piece as opposed to a piece that you start a rebuild with.
All right, so that was 3. The draft starts there. The first big surprise last night, number 4 overall, Smalls, you are a Cam Ward super fan. You believe in him. You believe he can lead them to the playoffs. You believe he can lead them to huge heights in Tennessee. Well, they went out there and got him a weapon, and I think everyone was surprised by who they got. Carnell Tate at 4, Ohio State wide receiver. He was probably the second best wide receiver in his own college team. Now, that's a little bit drastic because the guy they have next to him may be an all-time great one day in Jeremiah Smith, but never had a 1,000-yard season, never had a 10-touchdown season, never had more than 52 receptions as a college player. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm saying that's why it was a big surprise. Were you surprised when the Titans took him number 4 overall?
No, because they wanted to get a weapon for Cam Ward. A lot of people thought if the Arizona Cardinals weren't going to take Jeremiyah Love, that you could write it in Sharpie that the Tennessee Titans would with the next pick at number 4. I like Carnell Tate. He's obviously a dynamic player. But to your point, Evan, he wasn't a number 1 guy on his own team in college. So how is he going to adjust to that role now in Tennessee? But I like that they are building around Cam Ward. They're giving him more to work with. So overall, I liked the pick because I want Cam Ward to have success and I want that offense to continue to build. Would have loved it to be Jeremiyah Love for him because, as Cece said, Arizona, sure, you can put Jeremiyah Love on a billboard. How much success is he going to see without protection and without a quarterback? Whereas in Tennessee, they hopefully have their quarterback in Cam Ward. I think it would have been a much better fit for Jeremiyah Love at 4, but I like where their heads were and the thought process behind adding Carnell Tate.
Yeah, they had to get a weapon for Cam Ward. If it wasn't going to be Jeremiyah Love, then it had to be Carnell Tate. Polished route runner, willing participant in the run game, over 600 snaps in run blocking, not one holding penalty. So this guy puts his nose in there. He's not just a prima donna wide receiver, and I love that because with Rob Saleh, you're trying to establish a culture. And having a guy like Carnell Tate is a good place to start. Listen, you could do a lot worse than drafting an Ohio State receiver.
That's very true.
So if you look at the track record of those receivers from JSN to Emeka Egbuka, Garrett Wilson, you can go down the list. All of those guys are hella productive once they get to the National Football League. So I'm not worried about whether or not he can be a number one receiver if he wasn't a number one at Ohio State, because that program, the track record at that specific position, they've proven that those guys step up in class with competition and produce.
Excellent point. And you saw as soon as he got drafted, Brian Hartline, who was then their wide receivers coach last OC, now USF head coach, dap him up and all excited. And he's the guy that a lot of people look at with that along with Ryan Day. So it's an excellent point. Speaking of Ohio State, then we get to number 5. And we were sitting there in the Marriott Bonvoy Inner Circle last night as part of the draft, which was the coolest thing ever. We were like right there. We had this private section that Marriott Bonvoy invited us to. So shout out to Marriott Bonvoy while we're talking about this, because what Marriott Bonvoy did for us last night was unreal.
Marriott for the win last night.
Oh my God.
That was great. That was great.
We had
I couldn't believe it though. It felt like I was living in the upside down, because I'm with Pat Costello and we're trying to get in after visiting the ESPN radio draft crew. And we've got a call, of all people, Evan Cohen,
to get you in the club?
To get us into the club, to get us by the draft day stage. I felt some kind of way about it, Smalls.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together because I was with Evan to get in initially. I wasn't with you and Pat. Evan was the person to get the rope lifted and to get the wristbands on us.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into the club, and it's Evan Cohen of all people that has to get me into the club.
But he delivered.
Think about that visual.
But he delivered in a big way.
I'm trying to get into one of the coolest clubs on NFL draft night. And of all people, Evan Cohen has to be the one to get me in.
And not only that, CC, he had a table. He had bottle service.
He had a table with bottle service.
Marriott Bonvoy.
And I got to take some dessert back home.
How was that pecan pie?
Oh, it was outstanding. Outstanding. A little bourbon drizzle on it.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
Just very quickly to the point that you guys are making, and then we'll get to 5, because 5 was a huge part of this draft. So the draft, all the fans are there. The fans are amazing. Hundreds of thousands of people. Then there's the media section. But there's literally one quote-unquote cool section. It's like you're in, as you said, in this club. Tables, drinks.
There's a bar, a full bar.
Unbelievable.
There's also a thing on the wall with free snacks. I grabbed some Skittles. We had some chips. There was all sorts of great surprises and treats in there.
Shout out to Marriott Bonvoy, because they said, you know what? If we're going to have this cool thing, we need Unsportsmanlike there.
Yeah.
And we were there, so we appreciate Marriott Bonvoy. So as we're sitting there and we're watching, all of a sudden Carnell Tate gets off the board there. We're like, wait a minute. The Giants have their pick now. So who have we talked about for the Giants at 5? We talked about Sonny Styles, linebacker, who ultimately went to Washington. Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver you just mentioned, Arizona State, ultimately goes to the Saints. We've talked about Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. The Giants have their pick of the litter, and CC, they get up there and they take another pass rusher, Arvell Reese. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there with one Chris Canty, won a Super Bowl in 2011. He turns to me and he says, Kiwanuka.
Yes.
He says, OC, who's going to join us on set later today. Justin
JPP.
Are they recreating your team?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the NASCAR package is back in full effect. If you can march out Abdul Carter and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau and now Arvell Reese, you don't need to blitz on 3rd and long. You can just put those 4 hombres out there and let them hunt. They're going to find a way to get to the quarterback, I promise you. If you got 3rd and long against the Giants, you might as well run a draw and punt. Like, that's where we're at now, because with those guys getting after the quarterback, I love it. And here's the thing, Arvell Reese, he's not a finished product. He's 20 years old. What better way to help him realize his full potential than putting him around veteran pass rushers like Brian Burns and like Kayvon Thibodeau and now like Abdul Carter? I just believe in when you get that kind of talent in that defensive line room, good things happen for that Giants franchise. So I love the fact that they're going in this direction. We got word, the reporting around it last night, that they don't intend on trading Kayvon Thibodeau immediately. So you're going to have a glut of riches when it comes to your ability to be able to get after the quarterback, and not having to manufacture pressure by sending extra rushers is a huge advantage for the defense. So I love the Arvell Reese pick. That doesn't happen without the Jeremiyah Love domino going at 3. And so the Giants stepped in it last night by having Arvell Reese fall to them.
I like adding to his strength, though. John Harbaugh's building an identity, right? And what did you talk about yesterday? What's a young quarterback's best friend? A defense.
Yeah,
a
defense
defense
that can create field position and extra possessions.
Absolutely. And Arvell Reese is dynamic. He's versatile. He's fast. A lot of people had him number 1 overall from a talent perspective on their big board. The fact that the Giants were able to grab him, I thought was really good last night.
Yeah,
how about the way
you can play him off the ball, you can play him on the ball, and that's why I made the Matthias Kiwanuka comparison, because Kiwi played defensive tackle, defensive end, and he played off the ball linebacker. I think that Arvell Reese has a lot of those same traits. And so I'm excited to see how this regime uses him.
Okay, so while we're on the Giants part of it, then let's get to the second pick that they had, because this was interesting. We gave you the top 4, the surprise with Tate, no trade with Love. That leaves the Giants with all these choices. They take Arvell Reese. The Browns then trade out of 6. They go to 9. Kansas City moves up. They take a corner. Washington is sitting there like, oh, well, if Sonny Styles is here, we'll take him. CC already mentioned how much he loved the Jordan Tyson pick, wide receiver, Arizona State, to go to New Orleans with Tyler Shuck getting a weapon there. Cleveland moves down to 9. They take Spencer Furneaux, the offensive tackle out of Utah, to protect whoever is going to be the quarterback there, which I thought was a smart pick. So now the Giants are sitting there, and we started talking, oh my God, are they going to double up on Ohio State? Are they gonna get both of these guys with Caleb Downs? And the answer is no, but they get a road grader. They get a monster out of Miami in Francis Mauigoa, who, I mean, you listen to Mario Cristobal talk about him, and he raves about him. I know you like the player as a former Giant.
I do.
But you wanted someone else for the pick, right?
Yeah, I wanted Caleb Downs.
You wanted Caleb Downs.
Listen, I thought that the Giants could have taken Caleb Downs at 5, and I would have thought that was a great night. Now, Arvell Reese fell to him. They couldn't pass on the opportunity, and I get that. But you had Caleb Downs sitting there on the board. You don't take him, and then your division rival takes him with the very next pick. That's going to
Which they didn't have. The Cowboys traded up one slot
exactly.
to get that
That's going to be hard to stomach, especially if Caleb Downs comes out to be a game record for the New York Giants for 2 games a year for the foreseeable future. But I like CC Mauigoa. I like the fact that you're going to be able to slot him in at right guard, right next to Jermaine Illuminor. Now, all of a sudden, you have the makings of a really solid offensive line. And what did we talk about with Jackson Dart all season long? He plays the quarterback position like a crash dummy, and you got to find a way to be able to protect him. This is to that end, finding a way to be able to protect him. Last night, CC said to a reporter, I will die for Jackson Dart. That's the kind of thing that you want to hear when you draft a guy to be a protector for your franchise quarterback.
That's Mauigoa, the offensive lineman. They call him CC, started. There's so much to get to here with the draft. Of course, the 2026 NFL Draft is on ESPN Radio, presented by Pella Windows and Doors. Shout out to Ryan. We met him yesterday, hung with him, 5-Hour Energy, Zip Recruiter, Marriott Bonvoy, and second and third round coverage begins tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. All right, so what do we have still here? We have a lot to do over the next 4 hours here on Unsportsmanlike. Of course, we're going to get into the NBA playoffs. There were 3 games last night. Did the Knicks, they lost, right? They lost.
They ruined my best bet. Or did they?
Or did they?
Easy can't lose.
Or did
NBA
they?
playoffs on ESPN Radio, all the postseason action here presented by Gusto. So we will get to that in a little bit. But maybe the story of the night is what the Rams did at 13-1. Dan Orlovsky looks damn good after that one. We will get to that coming up after I tell everyone about PayPal. Shout out to the team at PayPal hanging out with us.